Raw tonight was more heavy on the story aspect than it was on the action. And it was not a very exciting show, not a bad show, but a very middle-of-the-road show tonight that was built around the story of Sami Zayn's choice. Seth Rollins gave Sami Zayn the choice to stay on Monday Night Raw and basically be wrecked by him and his new crew, or to leave and to go to SmackDown, where Paul Heyman later in the show promised him that he had it all worked out, where if he went to SmackDown, he would be in contention right away for the WWE Championship, that he would be able to wrestle the winner of John Cena against Randy Orton coming out of Backlash. All he had to do was step aside. And I'll give you one guess as to what Sami Zayn did. He did not step aside, because Sami Zayn, you see, has never walked away from a problem, as he said later on in the show. And when the show was over, Sami Zayn was left laying and needing medical attention. So they have set up a story now going forward between the two friends, or former friends, Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, when we are actually going to get the match in the ring. I have some thoughts on that, which we'll get into. But that was really the story that this show was based around for tonight. You know, what would Sami Zayn do? We also had Pat McAfee cutting an impassioned promo, basically demanding, begging for WWE to lift the ban on Gunther, who was suspended indefinitely after his actions last week when he put his hands not only on Michael Cole, but on Pat McAfee, and he left him laying after the sleeper hold. He wants a piece of Gunther, and he is going to get his match against Gunther. It is going to happen in less than 2 weeks at Backlash. So those of you who would like to send a donation in the memory of Pat McAfee may do so. I don't have the information in front of me right now. I am sure the family will be accepting flowers. If not, perhaps you can make a donation to his favorite charitable organization. We'll get you that info as soon as possible. But that match is now official. That will take place at Backlash, which is less than 2 weeks away. And the full, or mostly full, Backlash card is pretty much already set in stone here. I mean, it has to be, because the event is not this coming weekend, but the following Saturday. Backlash is already here. So what we know of is that we have John Cena defending his WWE Championship against Randy Orton. First time these two are going to meet in a singles match in a very long time. Jay Uso, after the events of tonight, we now know who he will be defending the World Heavyweight Championship against. It will be Logan Paul. So I guess now we know why Logan Paul had to go over on AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Becky Lynch is going to be wrestling Lyra Valkyria for the Women's Intercontinental title. That was made official. McAfee and Gunther, as I said. And so those are the matches that we know of for sure at this point. And I would imagine there'll be one more, maybe from the SmackDown side, that gets set probably this Friday. Seth Rollins against Sami Zayn. You got to have that out there as a possibility. That could also be announced for the show. But is that the longer-term plan? Are we not looking at Rollins and Sami quite that soon? And even if we are we looking at Rollins and Sami Zayn next year at a particular event? I think we might be, just based on some of the things that were said in their promo later on in the show. If this Backlash card feels very rushed to you, there's a reason for that, because it is. There's just not enough time to get a lot of these stories set up in the way that they should be in just a couple of weeks. So now here we are, and again, we're less than 2 weeks out now from this next PLE. So there's not a whole hell of a lot of time to really get these matches set up, I think, in the way that they should be. But that's the way the schedule is. And so we're already on the road to Backlash. But right now we're on the road to this Raw review, because this is your Raw on Netflix review for Monday night, April 28th, the final Raw review for the month of April 2025. I am the Solomonster. Thank you guys for choosing me for your Raw coverage here tonight as we kick off a brand new week. Do me a favor, like and subscribe. We are now 86,300 and counting. We are on the road to 87,000 subscribers. So I need your help to get there. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already done so. Super chats are open, and you may or may not see them popping up on your screen. There we go. Okay, I was a little worried because on occasion they will not pop up for some reason. There's a Streamlabs issue, but Melodic Rage Gaming just subscribed. So there they are. All right, so I know they're working, so get them on in, and then any super chats that come in, I will be reading them a little bit later on. I do want to give a quick plug to a video that I did put up before I left. There was no SmackDown review on Friday. There will be no SmackDown review because I wasn't here. I did watch SmackDown, but I was not here. There was no podcast this weekend. You did not miss anything. But I was in Chicago. I was not here. But I did make sure I got up a video before I left. Nearly 40 minutes long, because how could I not talk about this before I went away? Talking about The Rock doing damage control last week and the whole situation coming out of WrestleMania involving The Rock, Cody Rhodes, Travis Scott, John Cena, number 17, the main event of WrestleMania, the whole shebang. So if you missed it, be sure to go back and check it out. It's basically a podcast all unto itself. And I made sure I got that out before I left. And thank you for everybody who has sent in feedback or left a comment under the video. It is much appreciated. You weren't here for the best SmackDown. Of course, it always works out that way. If I'm not here, I can guarantee you that something big will happen, or it'll be like the show of the year. It's just, it's a natural. It's just, I come to expect it. It's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. But I did watch the show, and for the most part, I did enjoy it. It was a very good show. Let's talk about this show, though. This show was not as good as SmackDown from Friday. Nick Aldis was filling in for Adam Pearce because he had the night off. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a serious situation or maybe he just wanted the week off. But Adam Pearce was not there, so Nick Aldis was filling in for him as the GM. Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, they checked in from ringside, and Cole said that Gunther was fined and suspended indefinitely for his actions on last week's show. And he did say that Pat McAfee was going to have the chance later on in the show to address the audience and to address the situation that took place last week. But they opened with Seth Rollins and both Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman coming out in black suits on their way to the ring. And the fans cheered all three of them as they made their way down to ringside. And, you know, I am noticing that I don't want to say it's a problem as if it's happening in every segment, but it is something that since WrestleMania, especially, that I've noticed where you find certain heels on these shows are being cheered. And not that the baby faces are necessarily being booed, but at the same time, there are just certain segments and certain angles, certain situations where you don't want the heels to be cheered. So the heels were cheered multiple times, in fact, here on this show. This was one example of that. Rollins said that he knew there were people who still wanted to cheer for CM Punk. And this actually brought a noticeable amount of booing to the point where it seemed to catch them all off guard. And then finally you could hear some CM Punk chants. And Rollins made the comment, he goes, "Yeah, I knew there were still some of you left." So he mentioned that he also mentioned Roman Reigns by name, and Roman was mostly cheered. Rollins said the fans were looking at the future of the industry, and the future was not CM Punk. The future was not Roman Reigns. It's not John Cena. It's not Jay Uso or Cody Rhodes. The future, alongside Heyman and Breakker, runs through Seth Rollins. Sami Zayn enters. Rollins welcomes him back, said, "It's good to see you." Rollins asked him if he caught the main event of WrestleMania. Sami said he did. Said they've been friends for a long time, and Sami felt the need to come out here and tell him to his face that this is a load of crap, man. And he goes, all the time he spent, he being Rollins, all the time that Rollins spent talking about CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and the one thing that those two guys had in common, what was the one common bond between them? Paul Heyman. And now here he stands flanked by Paul Heyman. Goes, so how is he any different from the other two? Says he really started to believe that Seth had this just deep-seated hatred, for Punk, and he sounded self-righteous when he would talk about Roman Reigns, but now he thinks that maybe Rollins was just jealous, and he just wanted to be in the spot that those two guys were in. Seth said that this is his vision for the future. Sami said, what a coincidence that the vision for the future revolves around Seth Rollins being front and center. And Seth said that I'm the best man for the job. Sami said it's hypocritical, and he compared it to the bloodline, which Seth denied. He goes, this is nothing like the bloodline. But Sami said, how is it any different? You've got your wise man over there, and you've got your little dog over there. And if he keeps looking at me like that, that dog is going to get his face kicked in. Rollins said, this is the vision for the future, and you are either with us or you become a target. Heyman, by the way, he had his arm out to hold back Bron Breakker, who looked like he was about to run through Sami Zayn like a knife through, a knife through butter, hot butter. And he was holding this man back. So Rollins said he doesn't want that for Sami, so let's find a solution to this. It doesn't have to come to blows. It says the wise man can pull some strings and they can set Sami up for a move off of Monday Night Raw. This is not a threat. But Sami clearly is not going to buy into what they're selling, so maybe they can cash him out. It says, it's not a threat, it's an offer. It's a favor. Again with the favors. Everyone's doing favors for everybody on this show. So just think about it, he says, but we're going to need our answer by the end of the night. And Heyman had to literally pull Bron Breakker away from Sami at the end as they left because he was eyeballing him. He was eyeballing him like a lion looking at a pork chop at the end of this segment. It was a good hook for people to tune in. I always like it when they do that, when they have some kind of story thread that just runs through their people. But when you have that hook, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes it's an interesting hook. Sometimes it's boring. This was somewhere in the middle for me. But when you have that hook at the beginning of the show that tells people you need to stay tuned in until the end of the show. You got to stick around until the end if you want to get an answer to this question. And that's what they did here on this show. They may be a heel faction, and this goes to the point that I was making a little while ago. They may be a heel faction on this show, because they attacked two baby faces, right? Rollins, what he did to Roman and what he did to Punk, two people who, more so in the case of Roman, I mean, the guy's a total dick, but the fans love him, right? They chant OTC, they put their finger up in the air or up their nose or whatever. And then the people like Punk, obviously. So by virtue of what he did to them with the low blows and, Paul Heyman with the triple cross at WrestleMania, that in the eyes of some might make them a heel faction. But the fans cheered them like baby faces. When they came out here at the beginning of the, more so at the beginning of the show maybe than the end, but the fans cheered for them. And, Rollins, he really, up until maybe if you want to consider what happened at the end of the show, because people like Sami, but what has he really done so far to make him a heel? What has he done so far? And again, for a moment here, forget the end of the show. In these last couple of weeks, since WrestleMania, outside of attacking Roman and Punk, what has Seth Rollins really said or done to make him a heel, right? Nothing extreme yet. And so if they want these guys to really be the top heel group on this show, there's going to have to come a point where, beyond attacking Sami Zayn, who's the underdog fan favorite, they're really going to have to do something really vicious to someone. And to more than just Sami Zayn, to other people that the fans really care for, and Jay Uso is probably one of those people. So I think in time we'll get that. But just if you look at it, you can kind of understand maybe why the fans, in some cases would want to cheer these guys. Bron Breakker is a guy who's easy to cheer for because he's an ass kicker. Just his offense is such that when you see it, you want to cheer for the guy because he's cool, right? He's a cool guy. And how many cool baby faces are there right now? Well, the fans in the building seem to think that Jay Uso is a cool baby face because they love yeeting and they really like the guy. He's genuinely likable. They think he's cool. But you also have to be careful. If you want them to be heels, you don't want them to be cool heels. Or maybe Triple H does. Maybe that's exactly what he wants. He wants to blur the lines a little bit, right? You want to sell that merch. You want people to like them just enough, but you want them to be heels. So the reaction to them here was very noticeable on the show. That being said, the question was, is Sami going to turn? Is he going to go heel? Is he going to take them up on their offer and tuck his tail and go to SmackDown? And I think anybody who has followed Sami's career and knows him and that character knows that that's obviously not what was going to happen at the end of this show. But we saw Sami and we saw Jay Uso last week, and they were celebrating because Sami was genuinely happy that his friend won the world title at WrestleMania. And so I was thinking here at the end, if something is going to happen to Sami, that could be a way to introduce Jay Uso into the picture, which then is how you eventually get to Rollins and Jay Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I thought maybe there was a chance they would go to that first. I agree with them not going to it right away, because I think if we get that match, Rollins is going to win that match. And Backlash is too soon to take the title off Jay. So if you're going to do Rollins and Jay, better to save that for SummerSlam. I think that probably is the match for SummerSlam, as I sit here months before. But we'll see how that all shakes out. But this would be a very easy way to introduce Jay into the picture if they wanted to. We had Rhea Ripley one-on-one with Roxanne Perez. This was only the second meeting ever between these two women. They had a match in NXT 3 years ago that Rhea won. It looks like Roxanne is full-time now. Going forward on the main roster, there's been reports about her and Julia. Julia may also be full-time now on the main roster.
Amazing Gunther.
Not 100% yet.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther, the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Hey, now look at this. How about that? A $50 super chat from the Wichita Workhorse. That's Clayton. That's my boy Clayton. Clayton, thank you very much. It's good to see you here on one of the live streams. Clayton Nettleton. I'm going to get to your message and everybody else. I'll read them all later, but I wanted to make sure I acknowledged him because that is our big bomb of the night so far. But like I said, it looks like Roxanne is full-time on the main roster, as she should be. Julia also appears to possibly be full-time now on Monday Night Raw. I say possibly because I'm not 100% convinced that she's fully done yet with NXT. I think we still might see her have a match or two, but nobody's going to argue that either of these two women are not ready and have been ready for a while to be on the main roster. So their additions are going to be a big boost because it looks like they'll be on Raw. It's going to be a big boost to that Raw women's division. And it's not like they have any shortage of women down in developmental right now. They could call up another one or two on the SmackDown side as well. We got some cat and mouse early between the two until Roxanne, she threw her jacket at Ripley's head and then chop blocked her. She maintained control by working the leg. Ripley, though, caught her. Flying crossbody attempt and then gave her a fallaway slam. And we got a few chants of "This is awesome." We were barely a couple of minutes into this match, and we have fans, some fans anyway, in the crowd already chanting "This is awesome." In case you were wondering what that chant really means at this point, nowadays, not much. It really doesn't mean much. When everything is awesome, nothing is awesome. Perez regained control during the break. She was targeting the leg. Ripley fought back. She hit a razor's edge. My God. It's not even really enough for me to say that she hit a razor's edge. I mean, she folded this poor girl up with that razor's edge. Then she caught her with a sliding knee for a 2 count. Julia walked out at this point to distract Rhea, while Roxanne cradled her for a near fall. Ripley went after Julia, and Roxanne tried to capitalize on the distraction, but Ripley fought her off. She went for Riptide. Julia chop blocked her from behind. That gave us the cheap disqualification finish. Io Sky ran out to a big reaction. She made the save, repaying the favor from last week. The heels outnumbered Io until Rhea came back into the ring to chase them off. The match was good. I enjoyed it until the finish. The DQ, it protects Roxanne from taking a loss this early into her run. I don't really have an issue with that. It felt like they were setting up a tag team match, I would say, for Backlash, but you know how these Paul Levesque PLEs go. I mean, I don't even know if they'll hit 6 matches on that show. Maybe they'll do 6, 5 or 6. I don't see them doing more than that. If we're going to get a tag team match, it may well be a Monday Night Raw match. We may get Rhea and Io against Julia and Roxanne. If not next week, maybe the Monday after Backlash. It's not necessarily going to be a PLE match. Backstage in the Judgment Day Clubhouse, Finn Balor arrived to find JD McDonough hanging out with Dominic, Carlito, Liv Morgan, and Raquel Rodriguez. Balor pulled McDonough aside, said, "Look, can I talk to you for a second?" So he pulled him aside, and he expressed disappointment that JD didn't give him a heads up last week that he was coming back. "How come you didn't tell me?" And McDonough said, "Well, I told Dom." And Balor's like, Dom, huh? He goes, well, I just reached out to him to congratulate him after he won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, and it just came up. I got cleared a lot earlier than I thought I would. I told him, and I figured he would tell you. So Liv Morgan came over and says, everything okay? And she said, you guys should be getting ready for your match tonight. And Balor was confused. He had no idea what she was talking about. So McDonough informed him that Liv thought they should go after the World Tag Team titles and got them a match tonight with the War Raiders. And Morgan said it must have slipped her mind. That's why she didn't tell Balor. But she assumed that he would be happy since he's not a champion, right? Because they're all champions. Liv and Raquel and Dom, they all got titles. So she figured, Balor wouldn't mind. I love the passive aggressiveness here between these Judgment Day members. Between Liv and Dom, not Liv and Dom, Liv and Finn in particular. It's a lot of passive aggressiveness in these backstage interactions. So Balor asked McDonough and Morgan, keep him in the loop on things going forward, and then they headed off to go get ready for their match. And Carlito put his arms around Liv and McDonough and said that everybody in the group should be a champion. So coming soon, Carlito, the Speed Champion. That's about the only title that he might possibly have a chance of winning. Anybody could win a 3-minute match. All Carlito has to do is get a slip on a banana peel finish. 3 minutes, he's got himself a title. Jackie Redmond interviewed A-Town Down Under during the commercial break, which I was able to see because, again, I'm using my trusty ExpressVPN still, connecting to a Canadian server to watch these Raw shows. And when you do that, you get to see these awesome segments like Jackie Redmond interviewing Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. See, aren't you jealous? Don't you see what you guys are missing here? So Theory put over the Kansas City Chiefs. They were in Kansas City tonight. Grayson Waller, though, congratulated the Philadelphia Eagles on beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Waller then informed them both that he got a singles match for himself next week on Raw. And Theory did not look very happy about this. This is the first time he was hearing about it. And he was not thrilled as the slowest of slow burns continues to the breakup between these two, which I'm going to assume is currently scheduled for 2045. Stay tuned. Logan Paul was in the ring after a commercial break for the next segment. Thank you, Quizzical. Quizzical hooking everybody up with the ExpressVPN plug there. You want yourself a little discount. Actually, it's 4 extra months free is what it is, but there's your link right there. I use it every week. Every single week. So Logan Paul was in the ring. He wondered why he was getting booed after beating AJ Styles at WrestleMania. He called the fans victims of circumstance because they were from Kansas City, so they didn't know what greatness looked like. They were so stupid to think that a true legend would look like their current world champion, Jay Uso. He said he's done everything there is to do in the industry except win a world title. So he was interrupted by the world heavyweight champion. Jay Uso made his way out. Jay said that he wasn't about to hand over the world title that he worked 15 years to get to some punk-ass YouTuber. Hey, now, you better watch your mouth when you say that. You better watch your mouth when you say that. It says watching Gunther beat his brother to a bloody pulp lit a fire under him that is never going to go out. And he said, this title is not given, it's earned, and it's mine. And if Logan wanted it, Jay invited him to come take it. So Logan mocked his yeeting and said that he sounded stupid. He said he planned on taking the title while Jay would crash out, screw up, and lose it faster than he lost the Intercontinental title. And with that, he ate a super kick, and the crowd popped pretty big for it. And that was the end of the segment. So Jay got a superstar reaction here. Fans loved him. And it makes sense why Logan had to go in there and beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. I figured AJ would get the win. They gave it to Logan. And now we see Logan only a few weeks later is getting a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. He is going to be the first contender for Jay Uso and the world title. I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it. I'm fine with Logan being the first victim, which is what he's going to be. It's not main eventing the show anyway. We know it's in St. Louis. We know John Cena, whatever he's doing, that's what's going to headline the show. That's going to be John Cena against Randy Orton. I wouldn't be shocked if they opened the show with Jay Uso defending against Logan Paul, although I do think you want to be careful here because we had Jay Uso opening, his night of WrestleMania. So I don't know that you want Jay Uso to go in there on every PLE and just open the show, but that's the problem, right? Because you've got Roman Reigns and you've got CM Punk and now you've got Seth Rollins with this new crew and you've got John Cena, the 17-time world champion in his retirement year. All bigger stars, all bigger names. They're going to have much better spots on the card than Jay Uso is because Jay Uso may be popular and he may be the world heavyweight champion, but he is not at the level of those names I just mentioned. I'm just looking forward, whether it's Backlash, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, which is 2 nights, by the way. And even then, it's hard for me to imagine Jay Uso going in there and closing any of those shows. I mean, maybe if they do Uso losing the title to Rollins at SummerSlam, the way they're building up Seth's group with Heyman, maybe that could headline night 1. But I don't see him being that kind of champion who's going to go in there and close out shows. He didn't do it at WrestleMania, and he's not going to do it on most of their other PLEs. So to throw it out there as a title match at Backlash, whatever. I don't have an issue with it. The thing about it, though, I will say this. For whatever issue people on social media may have, and I haven't even looked yet, but I'm sure there are going to be people poo-pooing the idea that, Logan Paul, he's challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship on this next PLE. You see the reactions they got here in this segment. Logan goes out there. He got great heat. Jay Uso comes out. He's super over. Kicks him in the mouth. Gets a big reaction. The fans in the building certainly didn't have any issue with this. So I really don't think most fans are going to have a problem with it. If it was anybody else in this spot, honestly, if it was anybody else in this spot, I don't know that too many people would buy into the fact that Jay Uso is going to immediately lose this championship. Because, again, they could have done him and Rollins. They could have him and Sami. I thought maybe they were beginning the tease of a match between Jay and Sami, friendly fire here between these two. I didn't see the Logan, I'll call it the Logan swerve. I didn't really see that coming. But again, it makes sense that, he won at WrestleMania. If it was anybody else, I think against someone like Jay, Logan actually is a good challenger for this reason. If it was Logan Paul in there against John Cena, if it was Logan Paul in there against any other top babyface for a world title, he wrestled Cody Rhodes right on one of the Saudi shows, was it last year, the year before. I don't think people would really give him much of a chance. And by the way, I do think one day we will see Logan Paul win a world title. I think it will happen. Now is not that time. But in there against someone like Jay Uso, I do think that there are certain fans who do believe that he is not going to hold that title for very long. And I think that in this case, it will make for more dramatic near falls for people who actually think Logan Paul might have a shot at winning the world championship. I'm not going to say that there's a lot of people out there like that, but I do think him being the challenger as opposed to anybody else being champion but Jay Uso, I don't think Logan would be given much of a chance, and there wouldn't be too much drama involved here. Here, I think there might be a little bit, because I do think there are some people who might look at this and go, shit, they might actually change the title. So that's, I think, another benefit to him being the first challenger for Uso in this match. Speaking of champions, we had the former tag team champions, the War Raiders, taking on Finn Balor and JD McDonough. Now, the new World Tag Team Champions, the New Day, they were at ringside. They sat in on commentary here for this match. What was basically a number 1 contenders match, although they didn't announce it that way. Xavier Woods made a comment later in the match. He said McDonough really wants to win the titles back so that they could just not defend them for 70 days again. I had forgotten about that. The Judgment, they barely defended the titles when they had them. It's not a bad gig if you can get it, win the titles and just sit on them for 3 months. That's what the Young Bucks did last year when they had the tag team titles. Ivar went for his running crossbody block on McDonough at ringside. Carlito, who was out there, though, he pulled Balor's hand while Balor pulled McDonough out of the way, causing Ivar to crash into the side of the ring. Ivar then took a hot tag later in the match. He went up for a top rope moonsault, hit the moonsault, but there was nobody there. because Balor had rolled out of the way. McDonough tagged in, hit Ivar with a top rope moonsault of his own. Doesn't quite have the same impact, though, that Ivar's moonsault has. But he had him pinned. Eric broke up the cover. Ivar came back with a handspring into the ropes and a double elbow on both Judgment Day members. The War Raiders picked up both Balor and McDonough at ringside. So they had one on one shoulder. The other War Raider had one on the other shoulder. Ran them into one another. Ivar then tossed Balor at the New Day. He threw this man at the New Day at ringside and then ran at all of them with a running splash and crushed them all. In the ring, Eric knocked Carlito off the apron. McDonough hit a jawbreaker, and then he went up top while Carlito distracted the referee. And they thought they had a great plan, but not so much, because Penta suddenly appeared out of nowhere at ringside up on the apron. He pushed McDonough off the top rope, and he got hung up throat first on the top rope. Their plan backfired, and the War Raiders hit their War Machine finish. Ivar pinned McDonough. A bounce-back win for the Vikings here in this match, which sets up a WrestleMania rematch now instead of a bit of an odd heel versus heel match, which is what it would have been had the Judgment Day won here. So we're going to get a rematch. They're not doing this. I mean, I know they did New Day and War Raiders on the WrestleMania card and left the TLC match on TV on Friday night, but they're not going to run this match back at Backlash. This is going to be a Raw match sometime in the next few weeks. The New Day will beat them again, and then it will be on to whoever the next challengers are going to be. Probably Alpha Academy would be my guess. Now in the back, Sami Zayn was speaking with Otis, speaking of Alpha Academy, when Paul Heyman walked in. He pulled up a chair, and he asked Otis to leave so the two of them could have a conversation, and off went Otis. Heyman reminded Sami that the two of them are OG bloodline. Sami said that's true, but Heyman blew up whatever was left of the bloodline when he did what he did at WrestleMania. Heyman said he respects Sami's reasons for leaving the bloodline, and maybe one day, Sami will respect his reasons for doing what he did. But I didn't come to discuss the bloodline, he said. He goes, look, Seth Rollins sees himself as the vanguard of the future of this company. And whether he is or he isn't, that's how he views himself. Bron Breakker, he's a dog at the gate. And right now, Bron Breakker is demanding a match with Sami Zayn. Him and Seth, they can't say no to that because Breakker is the key to their plans. But Rollins holds Sami in such high regard, he's offering him a pass. And if he agrees to move to SmackDown starting this Friday, everyone wins. Says they already spoke with Adam Pearce. He spoke with Nick Aldis. And if Sami accepts their offer, Sami Zayn, upon entry to the SmackDown roster, will face the winner of John Cena against Randy Orton. Just like that, instant undisputed championship contender. That's how much Seth Rollins thinks of him. Heyman wraps his arms around Sami and he said Sami could live for the future or die with the past. Told him to think about it, and Sami looked like he was doing just that as Heyman stood up and he went to go leave, and the camera followed Heyman as he walked around the corner where we see Bron Breakker standing in the doorway, having just listened to the entire thing, and Heyman had a devilish grin on his face. So whether or not he actually pulled those strings, we'll never know. You know, I talked about this heading into WrestleMania. Like, they announced no stipulation for the night one main event. And I said, well, you know, they could have announced it as a number one contenders match. But then there were people who thought that the winner would go on to be inserted into the night two main event, which never made any sense. And that was going to be like Punk's favor. And I was like, how are we supposed to believe that Paul Heyman would even have the power to do that? Like, you know, he has that much influence to make a decision like that and pull those strings. But according to Heyman here, he talked to the GMs and he pulled enough strings to just, like that, make Sami Zayn the number one contender for the undisputed title. I don't buy that. I think it was all bullshit. I assume that's what it was supposed to be taken as, complete bullshit. Can you imagine Drew McIntyre's reaction, by the way? He's on SmackDown right now, and obviously him and Sami have had their issues before. Sami Zayn gets traded or just, you know, chooses to move to SmackDown, and already he's number one contender for the title. The fucking meltdown that Drew McIntyre would have if that actually happened. But I'm looking at Bron Breakker, and he's standing there in the doorway, and I swear to you, this man is orange. He's orange. Him and MJF, they use the same spray tanner. The man looked jaundiced. Like, I understand you're on television. I understand it's a cosmetic business. I get it. You want to look your best, and all the wrestlers, they use spray. I mean, sometimes it's more obvious than other times when they use the self-tanner and the spray tanner. But my God, do they not look in the mirror and see how ridiculous they look? The man was orange. I've eaten oranges that are not as orange as he was. My God. You know what it reminds me of, honestly? Anybody who's done graphics work will know exactly what I'm talking about. If you are editing an image in like Photoshop and you increase the saturation on the image from like 0 to 50, that was Bron Breakker here in this segment. That's exactly what it was.
I have the best moveset.
John F. Thank you for the super chat. He's got the best moveset. Thank you, brother. Bronze Breaker. Ava, you win the night. Ava in the chat wins the night. Bronze Breaker. That's going to be his new name. It's going to be his new name now. I love it. I love it. You know what? He should have a conversation with John Cena. I think Cena could probably learn a thing or two from him. Becky Lynch. Let's talk about Becky Lynch. She was on her way out to the ring next to explain her attack on Lyra Valkyria last week. After they lost the tag team titles, they won the tag team titles, and then 24 hours later, they lost the tag team titles. Now, they aired a video package right before this segment showing her turn last week, and they added in what sounded to me like a lot of fake booing. And I know it's fake because I didn't hear that booing last week. In fact, you had fans chanting one more time. And the great heel that she is, she actually listened to the crowd and went back and gave her another manhandle slam. So Becky said the man was back in business. She said Bayley was taken out of her match at WrestleMania. And she says she examined the footage and found the culprit. It was me. I did it. She told the crowd not to act like she was the bad guy here. She said Bayley has attacked her nonstop since 2019. Bayley never apologized to her, not even once. Bayley wants everyone to like her while she goes out and she wears everyone's t-shirts and dances to everyone else's music. And Bayley wonders why she's not a bigger star. Well, she got to see what a big star looks like when Becky came down that ramp at WrestleMania. She said, there's an old phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But the reverse is also true. It also works because the friend of my enemy is my enemy. Lyra wouldn't be in this business if it wasn't for Becky. But while she was out, Lyra was cozying up to the woman that she's been fighting for the last 6 years. Even as she tried to get her to ditch that bitch. She never would have won the tag team titles with Bayley. But it's too late now. She's already compromised. She's a loser. So then Bird Girl's music interrupted. And Lyra walked out on stage. She asked Becky if she knew how many women in the back warned her about Becky. Bayley was one of the first. She said Becky would step on anyone's throat if it meant getting ahead. And she didn't buy any of it because she was still so wrapped up in the dream of the two Irish girls going out and winning titles at WrestleMania. At this point, the crowd is so invested in Lyra Valkyria's promo, they began to give her the what treatment. And it only got worse as the segment went on. But she says she finally sees it now. She knows exactly what Becky is. The illusion of Becky Lynch is dead. And she's about to make her pay for what she did to her and to Bayley. So Becky rolled out of the ring at this point when Lyra got in. Lyra said, what's the matter? Are you thinking about the last time they went one-on-one and I beat you and took your NXT championship? So Becky said from now on, she only fights when it matters. And it's just now she's doing the Logan Paul gimmick now. And it does not matter in Kansas City. Lyra said, fine. Backlash. And she bets that Becky is only going to do it if she puts her Intercontinental title on. Now, mind you, Becky has said nothing about the Intercontinental title. So this is Lyra volunteering this. I bet you'll only accept if I put my Intercontinental title on the line. So fine. and this got no pop. Remember that Roman Reigns segment on SmackDown? Was it in reference to Rollins? I think he may have name-dropped Rollins. There was no reaction. He goes, see? No pop. No pop. No pop for any of this. Becky says she's going to make that title matter. And Lyra said that she's no longer interested in being the next Becky Lynch. She's going to be a better person than her. And she already knows that she's a better wrestler than her. And that at least got a reaction. So Becky started freaking out on the microphone until Lyra took her out with a drop kick through the ropes. She rolled Becky into the ring and started laying in some shots until Becky rolled back out and then retreated into the crowd. Now, they showed replays of what we just saw. And when we came back live, Lyra was on stage posing with her title. And then Becky came back out, sneak attacked her from behind, and knocked her down. So what did we learn here in this segment? We learned that Becky Lynch was, in fact, the one who attacked Bayley and took her out, which I kind of figured once she turned heel, that was the direction this was going to go. So she attacked Bayley, which now sets Bayley's first matchup for whenever she comes. I don't know how long she's going to be out for. I mean, I haven't heard that she's hurt, so I suspect she won't be gone for that long. I don't know if we'll see her at Backlash. We're probably right out of Backlash. We'll see Bayley back, and she's already got her first challenger, her first program, her first big match lined up. When she gets back, we'll get Becky and Bayley again. Only this time Bayley is the babyface, Becky is the heel. Which I don't think that was the dynamic, right? The last time we saw them feud, I don't remember. I don't think so. I think Becky was the babyface and Bayley was the heel. I thought Lyra was good here, even though she was getting the what treatment. She didn't do anything wrong. I thought from her it was a strong promo. We don't hear her cutting too many, kind of semi-emotional promos here. She was talking about, basically how devastated she was to see the real Becky Lynch come out here. So, I mean, I thought Lyra was fine, and she stood her ground here against Becky, and she got in the ring, and Becky rolled out as if she's afraid of her, so that was good. Volunteering her Intercontinental title when Becky never even mentioned it, that was a little weird. Like, I see what they were going for. Oh, you're probably going to say no unless I put my title on the line. Well, why don't you just wait? And let Becky say no unless you put your title on the line and then say yes. So it was a little weird that it's like when the champion challenges the challenger. AEW did this recently, and it actually was one of those rare instances where it kind of made sense because of what Samoa Joe did to Jon Moxley. He embarrassed him. So it made sense that Moxley would be angry and be like, Joe, I'm challenging you. I didn't have a problem with that. But as a general rule, the champion challenging the challenger is pretty fucking dumb. And that's, a little bit what they did here kind of made me feel like that. But Becky said something here. She said, I'm going to make that title mean something. And she will. She will. And if I'm booking this, then I'm booking Becky to win the Intercontinental Championship, because I do think that title being held by somebody in this company with a name, and who's been a world champion before, is going to do more to help make that title mean something and establish it than anything that Lyra has done so far. It's not even necessarily a knock on Lyra. It's just that she has not been established at that level enough yet. And certainly the booking has not helped. They have not done, booking-wise, Triple H, that's really who we're talking about here, has not done enough to effectively establish that women's Intercontinental title. It was the same issue with the Women's United States Championship. Chelsea Green did what she could. Chelsea Green's very entertaining. I have to say this. There were some comments I saw from people online. I wish I would have bookmarked this. I don't remember who. It was probably some random account that came up probably on the tab of people you're not following, but they recommend tweets. I don't know why some of these dumb shit tweets get recommended to me, but they do. I try to block them out as best I can. I saw something after SmackDown on Friday. Zelina Vega won the United States Championship from Chelsea Green. And there was something I saw where somebody was putting over the reign that Chelsea Green had. It wasn't legendary, but it was some word like that. Some big superlative word like, can we all recognize this great run that Chelsea Green just had as the United States champion? I said, sure, I'd love to, but I'm still waiting to see what this wonderful run was. What the fuck are you talking about? Have standards fallen so low that just by virtue of holding a championship, it's something to be deemed legendary or memorable or like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not even blaming Chelsea Green for it, but like, can anybody honestly with a straight face look at this run that Chelsea Green just had as the United States champion and use words like that to describe it as some kind of wonderful, historic, memorable championship reign? Like, give me a fucking break. So like Zelina Vega won the US title and got a nice reaction for it. I don't think people were expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, but good for her. She got to win a title the same night her husband came back to the company and made his debut. So for them, it was a nice moment. But like, they have done like the bare minimum to establish either of these titles. And it's been months already, right? I mean, it's been months. We had the US title decided in December. We had the IC title decided in January. And I want you to tell me what they have done so far with either of those championships that you would honestly consider to be great, right? Nothing. The answer is nothing. So having a Becky Lynch hold this title, even for a few months, and then have Lyra beat her to get the belt back, maybe it's SummerSlam. That's the way to go. SummerSlam, where there's still talk of an Evolution PLE in July, which still hasn't been announced. But if they're going to do it, that would be in July. Either of those shows. There's no harm in having Becky hold that title for a few months, so long as the plan is for Lyra to get it back. There's no harm in John Cena winning number 17 and beating Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, provided the plan is for Cody to be the one to beat Cena, get his win back, and get his belt back. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the same thing here. So she wasn't lying when she made that comment, because that's exactly what I would do. But my God, I mean, some of these comments, I don't like how are these comments even recommended? And I'll see comments like this sometimes from some of the, they have the engagement farming accounts where all they do is post provocative stuff and, gets picked up 30,000 times. And I'll look at the substance of what they're saying sometimes. And I'm saying, like, do these people even know what they're like liking and favoriting when they like these tweets? Just how ludicrous some of them are. Oh, they cooked. And then I look at like what they're talking about. I go, cooked with what? What did they cook with? These ingredients look like shit. It's amazing. Backstage, Nick Aldis said that he's not going to fine Penta for what he did out there earlier with the Judgment Day, but he can't have that happen again. But he did go ahead and make a match for next week between Penta and JD McDonough. And Penta was far too psyched to get a match with the Judgment Day than he should have been, but he was very excited about this. And he thanked Nick Aldis for it. Aldis left. Chad Gable and Ivy Nile showed up. And Gable was wearing an El Grande Americano Numero Uno t-shirt, which if they're really gonna sell that, I would have to consider buying one. Although for the prices that Fanatics is probably charging, probably not. Probably not. He said he was about to walk Ivy out to the ring for her match coming up, but he couldn't help but come talk to another luchador on his descent. Penta thought he was pretty sweet pulling out a cheap win against him in the Netflix debut, but look at him now, dropping the big one at WrestleMania. Goes, what is it, 0 Miedo? He goes, 0 comebacks, you clown. Just the way he said it made me laugh. Penta went to go walk away, which, by the way, what the fuck? He's walking away. The guy just insulted him to his face. Penta should have fucking broken this guy's arm. He's going to walk away. Although, you know what? To be fair, I guess, given what Nick Aldis just said, he's trying to be on his best behavior. So I guess that's okay. He's trying to be a good soldier. But he goes to walk away, and Gable said, hey, Penta, you losing wasn't my favorite part of WrestleMania. It was watching your useless brother Phoenix drop his first match to El Grande Americano. And at that point, Penta could take no more. So he kicked him in the face, and he told him, this is for my brother, pendejo. You don't mess with the Lucha Bros. That's right. That's right. You tell him. After a break, they aired a promo for Rusev, who said that once upon a time, he had it all. And I was very sad that he didn't mention his hot, flexible wife. in this promo, as he did many, many times in AEW. But he said at one time he had it all. He had the gold, he had the fame, he had the tank at WrestleMania, and then he lost himself. He left the WWE, and on his way home to Bulgaria, he fell into the abyss. Just watching this, I go, so would AEW be the abyss that he's referring to here? I just love this idea that he's been gone. He's been gone for what, 5 years? And so he left WWE and he just kind of got lost. He was flying home to Bulgaria, and I guess the plane maybe just kind of missed the runway, and he's just been lost for the last 5 years. And only now has he found his way back to WWE. But he talked about here the abyss. He got lost in the abyss. He goes, the abyss, though, is where he found himself. It's where he healed himself. It's where he redeemed himself. And he fixed himself. In that hell, he realized, which is actually, I didn't realize that's kind of funny too. If you assume AEW is the abyss, he said, in that hell, he realized that he will no longer fight for a woman that isn't his, or a flag that never was. He had an epiphany. He was finally free to crush people, not because he was told to, but because he wanted to. So from now on, he will use his hands and jacked body for good. He will hunt the flawed, the arrogant, those who waste their talents like he did. And through pain, he will perfect them all for good. So my brothers, your lack of suffering ends now. He is the tempest rolling in. He will hunt you, forgive you, and fix you like he fixed himself. But choose your next steps wisely, because for a righteous man, saving you will be no hardship. Ending you will be no loss. A little redeemer in there, right? A little bit of that redeemer in there. I like the redeemer gimmick in AEW. I was hoping maybe he would bring it back. This kind of felt a little redeemerish to me. This, by the way, this doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a heel. Now, I know you look at what happened with his return last week, and what did he do? He attacked Alpha Academy, these beloved baby faces. So you assume he's going to be a heel. And as I said, what did I say? He's going to have a match with Otis. That was the whole point of doing that segment. And sure enough, they announced that next week it's going to be Rusev and Otis one-on-one. But just because he attacked them, I would like to see some shades of gray, where if his gimmick is that he's trying to redeem or fix people, as he said, right? Like he's a fucking veterinarian here. But if he's going to fix people, then maybe it could be a mix of heels and baby faces. It doesn't just have to be baby faces. I don't know. To me, that would make it kind of more interesting. If you never really knew who he was going to go after, like what he's saying here is true and he believes in it. And it's not just him playing heel and going after the good guys. But he is going after a good guy next week because he's wrestling Otis. Stephanie Vicaire, the NXT Women's Champion. We had her on Raw last week. She had a very enjoyable match with Io Sky. And I figured that was just kind of a one-and-done thing on Raw. Just to get her on the show, right? The post-WrestleMania Raw, they do some big things on that show. She was on Raw now 2 weeks in a row. And she is still the NXT Women's Champion, so she's not full-time on Raw, but she was on Raw 2 weeks in a row. And she wrestled Ivy Nile this week. After blocking a Devil's Kiss attempt earlier in the match, Nile did take a Devil's Kiss from Stephanie, much to the delight of the fans in the crowd. And I'm sure many fans watching at home, this one included. She hit a Meteora in the corner. Gable, though, who was out there, placed Nile's foot on the rope. So Stephanie went outside and confronted him, but Nile came out and dropped her with a German suplex, a release German on the floor. Nile hit another one in the ring for a 2 count. She went to the top rope. Stephanie cut her off, hit a superplex for a near fall of her own. Nile countered Vicaire's finish with a Uranagi for 2. Stephanie trapped Nile in the ropes and hit a super kick, and she followed that with a dragon screw and her SVB for the win. Stephanie looked great as well. I mean, when does she not? I mean, she just, from the entrance to the matches themselves, this woman is a star. There's a reason why she's in the position that she's in. And it was no different seeing her out here on this show. Ivy got to show off a little bit of what she can do. It wasn't a squash or anything like that. She got some offense. I would still say this was the weakest Stephanie Vaquera match that I could remember seeing, though, in a while on TV. But it was fine, as a showcase and a way to get Stephanie on the show. I didn't get a sense there was any real direction for her on this show. I don't know if they're going the Kevin Owens route with her, where, Kevin Owens was the NXT champion. When he got called up in 2015, he was feuding right out of the gate with John Cena. So he was still wrestling in NXT, but he basically was full-time on the main roster for the most part. I don't know if that's what they're doing with her, where we're going to see her more often on this show, or if this is just going to fizzle out, and then whenever she drops the title, then we'll see her. I hope that she gets a Kevin Owens type run where she could be the NXT champion, but still split time between both shows because she belongs on Raw or SmackDown. Same thing with Julia. Same thing with most of the women at the top of the food chain right now in NXT. Right? You can't do that with all of them, but there are as many as half a dozen different women right now who are in NXT who absolutely are ready to be on the main roster right now, and they can breathe new life into the divisions on Friday and Monday. So I hope we get to see more of her, not less of her on this show. I don't know who in their right mind would want to see less of Stephanie Vaquera. Show yourself. Who are these people? Backstage, AJ Styles was with Nick Aldis. In comes Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, and Raquel Rodriguez. And Liv apologizes for tanking the ratings because she needs a few weeks off to work on a major motion picture. She's going to be working on a major Hollywood film and needs some time off. And Aldis says that her time off has been cleared, and he congratulated her. This is a shoot, by the way. She has landed a major role in a big movie, and we don't know what the role is or what the movie is yet. Apparently that announcement is going to be made next week, but that is a shoot. She got a big role. She's going to be gone for at least a few weeks. Good for her. So Dom says that, well, I need some time off too. And Aldis wondered why that was. And he said, well, I'm the Intercontinental Champion now, and I could do what I want. And Aldis said, no, it doesn't work that way. In fact, being the champion means you work more often. Oh, that was funny. That was funny. You got to admit, that was funny. Roman Reigns is at home laughing his ass off watching this segment right there. That was funny. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Bill Goldberg. Even Logan Paul, when he was the United States champion. Since when does being champion mean you work more often and not less often? Give me a fucking break. So Dominic suggested that he find a retirement home for AJ and wondered if maybe he broke his hip, just like his deadbeat dad. Yeah, Rey Mysterio didn't break his hip, but he suffered a pretty gnarly injury. He tore his adductor muscle. That's one of the injuries that The Rock suffered in that last WrestleMania match he had with John Cena, where he tore every fucking muscle in his lower body. He tore his adductor. So I thought Rey just pulled his groin or tore his groin. This sounds worse. He had surgery, so we're not going to see him for a while. Styles said that, no, I didn't break my hip, but he offered to break something else. And so the Judgment Day left. Dominic held up his title so that AJ could see it. And then AJ said to Aldis, I have an idea. And Aldis said, I think I already know what it is. So it looks like AJ and Dom, we're getting that soon. Now, Sami Zayn, he was pacing in the back when Karrion Kross showed up, and he told him, it looks like you've got a big decision to make tonight. And hopefully, Sami, you make the correct one. And then he left. Then I should point out to you here that Kross was wearing his hair just like Sami wears his. He was doing this with AJ Styles. He had his hair straight and long, just like AJ. So here he had his hair up like Sami, and he did not get the reaction that he got when he was in Vegas last week. Because I think he's a Vegas guy, and he got a nice reaction at WrestleMania. He got a nice reaction on Raw last week. He didn't get that same reaction here. But I do hope that we continue to see him more consistently on these. He's been on the show basically every week. The thing with him, though, is it's always very brief. And so last week, we had AJ Styles and him in the back, and AJ said, well, why don't you got such an issue with Logan Paul, why don't you step into the ring with him? And then he said, maybe I will. So they were teasing that we were going to get a Karrion Kross Logan Paul match. No follow-up or indication of that being the case this week. I hope they didn't drop that. I think that would be a fine television match to do next week on the show. Before Logan challenges for the World Heavyweight Championship, you do a match with him and Karrion Kross on the show next week. Now, Michael Cole spoke from the announce desk, and he said that he felt bad about dragging Pat McAfee into the situation last week with Gunther. But he said, in my 28 years with this company, I think that I've earned the right to share my opinions. And then he set up footage of last week's angle involving Gunther, where he confronted the announcers, he put his hands briefly on Cole, and McAfee came to Cole's aid, and then he paid the price for it. And Gunther put him out with a sleeper hold. And McAfee sold it so well that he was, slapping hands with fans on his way to the back, and he was back on his radio show the next day, or his whatever YouTube show. It is a radio show, right? But he was back on his show the next day like nothing ever happened. But it was still it was a great angle. I really enjoyed that angle last week. I thought it was very well done. So McAfee said, it's time for me to address the situation. And he removed his headset and he proceeded to stand on top of the announce desk with a microphone. And he said, Kansas City is glorious and it's the right place for me to deliver my message. He said, a lot of people have forgotten who the hell he is. And even he has forgotten who he is. He said that he was born to the son of, or as the son of a truck driver. Me too. In Pittsburgh, living paycheck to paycheck. He's been blessed to have great friends and to go from being a bum to being known in every city in the country. He said that when he dies and they put him 6 feet in the dirt, he hopes that they say that he was an incredibly hard worker who worked his ass off for his friends, his family, and his community. He said he hopes they say that he gave millions to hospitals and military foundations and homeless shelters and the LGBTQ community. He said when he's gone, people will say that he was a loyal motherfucker, which they censored. He said when you're, with him, you're either with him or you're against him. And he said Michael Cole has been with him since the first day they met. He said he'll be loyal to Cole until he's in the soil. And he said that when that Austrian asshole put his hands on Cole, he had no choice but to protect his boy. People told him not to try Gunther, who's in his prime right now. McAfee said if he dies, he dies. He said that if Gunther has a problem with Michael Cole, then he has a problem with him. And at that point, he called for what he called SmackDown's version of Adam Pearce to come on out. Nick Aldis walked out on stage and said, I'm in charge for the night, and I do things a little bit differently than Adam Pearce. McAfee said he knows Aldis is a middleman just like Pearce. He's middle management. He told Aldis that he wants Gunther's ban lifted so that he can fight him ASAP. Aldis said that he assumed that McAfee would make that request, and so he talked about it with Adam Pearce. Aldis said that he would not lift the suspension so that McAfee could get his hands on Gunther. He said the way to make that happen would be for McAfee to agree to face Gunther in a sanctioned match at Backlash. And McAfee agreed to the match, and then he sat back down next to Cole, who said, I hope that you know what you're doing, partner. It was weird here how Aldis, he refused his request, only to then turn around and grant him his request. And I can only imagine it was just in the way that, and I thought Pat's promo was great, but it may have just been a case where Pat didn't articulate it in the way that he was supposed to. I know you might listen to what he says and he's like, I want him in a fight, but basically he was saying, I want you to lift his suspension so I can kick this guy's ass. I think the assumption would be that they would have a match. And then, that's why he's asking for him to lift the ban, as he said. And all this is like, well, I'm not going to do that, but the way to do it is to basically lift his ban and put you guys in the ring together for a match. So I don't know. The way that all came about, it was a little weird. But I thought it was a really good promo. I enjoyed the angle last week. And you could tell this was leading to a match. Like, how can you not look at what they did last week and not figure we're getting Gunther against Pat McAfee? So I knew this was coming. I didn't know how they were going to set it up. But I thought the promo was well done. It was well delivered. And now we're getting the match. Now we have the actual date for the match. So I guess Gunther gets a few weeks off. He'll be back to work at Backlash. Pretty much anything Gunther does, I'm a fan of. Because I think he's a tremendous performer. He's got this air of just believability about him. McAfee is well liked by most of the WWE fans. I find him, on commentary, he's good, but there are times where he'll just become grating. And so it's very hot and cold, hit or miss with me lately, but like he's very good in the role that they have him in. And he is, for the most part, I think, beloved by the audience. You saw it last week when he stood up for Michael Cole. You know, he got wildly cheered, and there were people in the crowd chanting his name. And they were booing, you know, when Gunther was putting him to sleep and kicking his ass. So do I have an issue with Pat McAfee being put in the ring with Gunther? Oh, is this a fall from grace from Gunther? I don't think so. I don't look at it that way, because he lost the world championship to Jay Uso. Why? Because this is Jay's time right now. And Jay's time, I think, will be fairly limited. I don't see him having any kind of extended. I think by SummerSlam, he's done as far as world champion. But he's not just going to lose it back to Gunther. Their story is finished. The story was Jay believes he can beat this man. He could never do it before, but he knows he can do it. And he did it. Gunther had his time. Right now, his time as champion has come to an end. John Cena has a stranglehold on that other title for most of the year now. And if anybody's going to beat him for it, it ain't going to be a heel like Gunther. So what do you do with him? Like, what would you do with him right now? He's on Raw. Now, you can move him to SmackDown. And who's to say that he won't be moved to SmackDown after this? I don't even know if they're having a draft. They've said nothing about the draft. I don't think they need one. But if they have one, maybe he ends up getting moved. But right now, he's on Raw. Now, I would love to see him work someone like AJ Styles. And I'm sure I could cherry pick a couple of other people on this brand that he hasn't worked with yet. This is going to mean more, because Pat McAfee is a beloved figure on this show. And so I think it works. I think the dynamic between these two works. And I think that if anybody can, step in the ring with Pat McAfee, and Pat's had a few matches back in NXT, and I think a couple even on the main roster. If anybody can go in there and give Pat McAfee a hell of a fucking match, if not the best match he's ever had, it's this man. That match, dude, outside of Orton and Cena, don't be surprised if that match is the match that has the most heat on the entire card. More than anything else. It may well be this match. So I just think it's kind of a fun detour for him until they can figure out, if they haven't already, what they want to do with him as far as like a proper program for him. He'll beat Pat McAfee, and then coming out of it, we'll see what they have in store. We'll see what they have lined up for this man. I don't have an issue with them doing this right now. This card has been built up so quickly, and it like I said, it feels very rushed. They're going to do it. It's going to be over, and they're going to move him on to something else. It's not a big deal. It's not a fall from grace. I think that this match is going to end up being a lot better than some people maybe are willing to give it credit for. We will find out next weekend. Now in the back, Jay Uso meets with Sami Zayn. And Jay says he knows that Sami is going to make the best decision for himself. Sami thanked him, and the two of them hugged. Sami left, and the camera lingered on Jay for a while until, out of nowhere, Logan Paul punches him in the jaw. And that was the last we saw of Jay Uso for the rest of this night, which was almost over because we only had one segment left. Seth Rollins was out to the ring next for the closing segment, which was Sami Zayn's decision. What would Sami decide to do here at the end of this show? So he called Sami out to the ring, and he asked Sami, hear me out. Okay, he says, you're putting me in a really tough spot. Seth said, we go back a long way.
I have the best moveset.
We both have the best moveset. We go back a long way, he said, and he doesn't want to see anything bad happen to Sami. And he gets it. He says he doesn't like Breaker, he doesn't like Paul Heyman, but this is him, man. He goes, this is me. We've been talking about, 20 years of friendship you and me have. He thought Sami was going to come out here tonight and give him the same respect that he did to Jay Uso last week. Sami came back on Raw last week and he was celebrating with Jay Uso, who had this big monumental win at WrestleMania. And he really thought that Sami was going to come out and do the same because he won the WrestleMania main event. He beat Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and he thought Sami was going to come out and pay him that same respect. He knows he doesn't agree with it, but he and Bron and Heyman says that is the way forward. That is the vision for the best future of WWE. He wishes that he had someone else to believe in, but there is no one better to lead them into that future than him. And the fact that Sami doesn't believe that, he goes, it hurts. He says, in this business, I mean, how many true friends can you really count that you make? 1, 2, maybe 5? But for him, he was one of those friends. Sami was one of those friends to him. He says, when Seth's baby girl was born, Sami was one of the first people that he called. Says he was scared out of his mind. He came to Sami, and Sami gave him some of the best advice he's ever gotten in his entire life. And he will be forever grateful for that. Now let him return the favor and give him a piece of advice that can save his life. Take the pass. Says take the way out. Whatever Heyman's got lined up for you, take it. Because if you stay on Raw and you don't believe in me, bad things are going to happen to you. And I love you, and I don't want to see that. Take the out. I'm begging you, take the out. Sami said, if he hurt Seth's feelings as a friend, he's sorry. Their friendship transcends this business. Their kids play together. Outside the ring, that's all true. When it comes to everything Seth says inside this ring, he thinks Seth is playing games. And he goes, look, I've never been great at that stuff. Not as great as you. That's why you're in the position that you're in. Seth knows the one thing, though, that nags at him, the one thing that has eluded him his entire career has been a WWE championship, has been a world heavyweight championship. He's never been a world champion before, not on the main roster. He was NXT champion, but we don't acknowledge that. And even that was very brief, if you remember. Oh, was that 2 months? But he goes, he's never been a world champion before. And he goes, Seth knows that. And now you're dangling that in front of me. You're using that against me because you know how much that means to me. And you're dangling it like a carrot in front of me. And he asked Rollins, have you ever known me to run away? Seth talks about hurt feelings. He goes, he's not going to stand here, Sami is, and listen to his friend threaten him, which is what Rollins is doing. You're making me a target. He goes, I can live with that. But I can't live with being blackmailed or blackballed or blacklisted. I will not be threatened, he said. He goes, I will win a WWE championship. I will become a world heavyweight champion. And when I do, it will not be because of any favors from anyone. It'll be because I did it my way, the right way. So, buddy, as a friend, I respect you. I love you, but this is me telling you to go to hell. And with that, we heard the sirens, and out came Bron Breakker in his wrestling gear. And Rollins met him in the aisleway and gave him marching orders. And in the ring, Sami is tying his shoes. He's slowly unbuttoning his dress shirt. Alicia Taylor makes the match announcement. So we had ourselves a main event. I thought this segment was going to be the main event. As it turns out, we actually got a match here in the main event. So Rollins stayed at ringside along with Heyman. He pleaded his case to Cole and McAfee about there being consequences. He looked very somber about the whole thing. Zayn worked the match dressed in pants and shoes but no shirt. They ended up at ringside. Breakker slammed his head on the announce desk, and then he returned to the apron. He did his leaping clothesline off the apron. Both men went tumbling over the announce desk. Coming out of the final break, Sami delivered a sunset bomb from the ropes for a near fall. For some reason, the fans at this point in the match decided to pull out their phones and bring out the fireflies. I have no idea why. But that's all you saw. You saw the fireflies, you saw all the lights around the arena. So Zayn went up top. He got cut off by Bron, who gave him a Frankensteiner off the top. Breakker lowered the straps. He went for a spear. Sami kicked him. He hit an exploder. He went for the haluva kick, but Breakker cut him off with a spear. Rollins nodded to Breakker, who ran the ropes and speared him for a second time. So now Sami is laying, he's down by the ropes, And Rollins is right there. And Seth looks down at him and says, it doesn't have to be this way. There's still time. Take the out. You can still get out. Take it. Sami told him to go to hell. No reaction. I don't even know if the fans heard that. I assume they didn't hear it. And he used the ropes to pull himself up, and he's struggling back to his feet. Meanwhile, Bron Breakker's running the ropes. He's crisscrossing. He's going back and forth a few times, and he spears him for a third time. And this time, Sami rolled out of the ring to the floor right at the feet of Seth Rollins. Referee Chad Patton went outside to go check on Sami. He called for the medics. Sami is gasping for air. And Rollins glances up at Breakker and tells him something. We can't see what it is, but he says something to him. And Breakker exits the ring. He does his sprint around the ring, and he spears Sami for a fourth time. And Michael Cole begs Paul Heyman to just call him off, and he's asking Seth to do something, even though Rollins was the one who asked him to go do what he just did. Breakker puts him back in the ring. Referee, at that point, got into the ring. He's basically kind of covering Sami for his own protection, and he's calling for the bell. So the referee calls the match off at that point, and the fans booed, and the fans were so shaken. They were so shook by this brazen attack by Bron Breakker, this animal, on their fan favorite, right? The lovable underdog, Sami Zayn, who has had his ribs caved in by this man, that they collectively begin chanting one more time. What do I always say? The fans are the heels. I think they've proved my point more in the last 2 weeks than they have in the last 2 years, it feels like. The fans are the heels. And unlike Becky Lynch last week, who gave those fans exactly what they wanted, like a babyface, Bron Breakker did not do that. So Rollins, he backed Breakker into the corner. He told him there are people in this business that deserve their respect, that deserve their compassion. But Sami made his bed, and now he has to sleep in it. And Rollins, with that, proceeded to deliver a stomp to Sami Zayn. Now, I know that Jay Uso, in the very segment that preceded this one, got punched in the face by Logan Paul. Okay, I saw that. I get that. I understand it. But unless he got punched in the face with an anvil that was taped to the man's hand, he got punched in the jaw 20 minutes earlier. You mean to tell me that throughout this entire thing, right? Not just the match, the post-match, though. This man is being destroyed in this ring. We just saw Jay Uso embracing Sami Zayn in the back. Like they're best friends. They're like this, right? And we know Jay Uso was there. For him to not come out to make the save, it was ridiculous. And I know why they didn't want him out there, because he's got his program with Logan Paul and he's not involved in any of this right now. But it just stretches the bounds of just credibility with me, knowing that the man was there literally right in the segment before. It's not like he got taken out of the building in an ambulance. It's not like he drove off to go search for Logan Paul, as far as we know. And I'm thinking he's going to come out at least to like shield Sami, or, you know, first little tease of something in the future, even between Rollins and Jey Uso. But no, there was no Jey Uso. I mean, and that's to say nothing of Roman Reigns or CM Punk not coming out, but we figured they're not there. But we know Jey Uso was there, but he didn't come out to help Sami. So the question is, like, are we looking at Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins one-on-one as early as Backlash? I hope not, because that's just way too soon. You talk about rushed. I would not be doing the match on that show. I think it would be way too quick. This show is less than 2 weeks away. But even if it is, let's say they do this match at Backlash. I think the longer term play here, we very well are looking ahead to WrestleMania. Sami emphasized in this promo, like passionately, I will be a world champion. And he said it to Seth, who's now the number one heel on this brand, and is very likely by SummerSlam going to be the world heavyweight champion, led by Paul Heyman. Are we looking at a situation here where Sami Zayn is going to go into Saudi Arabia in January next year and win the Royal Rumble? Because if ever there was a place, and you know he's going to be beloved there, if ever there was a place for Sami Zayn to go out there and win the Royal Rumble, it feels like 2026 would be the right time for that. And if he does, he's going to get a shot at the championship of his choice at WrestleMania. Could be either one. But if Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion going into WrestleMania next year, is that what we're looking at? Are we looking at Sami Zayn winning his first world title at WrestleMania off of Seth Rollins? Is that the play here? You would have asked me this question even a couple of months ago. I would have said, because I talked about Sami being my early favorite to win the Royal Rumble next year, but I would have said that we're looking at Sami Zayn beating Drew McIntyre to win the World Heavyweight Championship. So the history between those two, he's never been able to beat Drew before. Get that belt back on Drew, man. That guy deserves it. And let Sami be the one to beat Drew in New Orleans at 42. Now I feel like we're looking potentially at Rollins and Zayn. But that may be the longer term story. Now that doesn't mean they're not going to do the match now. Seth beats him. And then they circle back around to it much later on. But that could be the long-term play here. Because I still look at that Rumble next year and I say, Sami Zayn, he's got to be one of the top 3 early favorites to win the Royal Rumble next year. If ever there was going to be a year where they told that story of him winning the championship, it's got to be next year. It's got to be next year. And I'm talking World Heavyweight title. I'm not talking WWE Championship. But I think that would be the place to do it. In the meantime, we'll see, if they do that match at Backlash. See, there's a tag team match that's just kind of hanging out there, which is Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker against Roman Reigns and CM Punk. They're not doing that match at Backlash. I don't even think, like, Reigns and Punk were barely even mentioned tonight. That, to me, is Money in the Bank. If we get that tag team match, I think that's your Money in the Bank match. Because you need time to get Roman and Punk on TV to get on the same page, to actually become tag team partners and agree to be tag team partners in the first place. You need time to tell that story. You're not turning that around in 2 weeks, but I think that's Money in the Bank. I think that's what we're looking at. So Rollins, Heyman, Breakker, they stand tall second week in a row to close out what I thought was a very story-heavy show. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a very exciting show. I have this in the middle. I didn't dislike the show, but I didn't love it either. So I kind of fall in the middle on this. They're trying to rush together this Backlash card because they don't have a lot of time left. We'll see if SmackDown adds one more match. If they do, at that point, I think the card is set because they're not going to want to have more than 5 or 6 matches. That's their formula that they have for most of these PLEs, at least the non-big ones, the non what you would consider to be the big 4. And so I think the card at this point is pretty much set. Take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of Raw from Kansas City tonight? 62.5% thumbs up, 26.6% thumbs in the middle, and roughly 11% thumbs down for Raw tonight. Money in the Bank needs to be Cena versus Punk, says Ava. It could be. It could be, or that could be SummerSlam. Don't forget, SummerSlam is 2 nights. That's a big enough match. I know the history there with Money in the Bank, but that's a big enough match to close out SummerSlam with. Not just Money in the Bank. Either of those 2 shows works. But yes, Cena versus Punk absolutely has to happen this summer. They set it up with Punk's promo coming out of Elimination Chamber. That passionate promo that he cut. We have to get that match at least one time. All right, let's get to your messages here. Find out what you guys thought of tonight's show. Thank you again for being with me here on a Monday night. It's always a better night when you guys are here with me. We kick off a brand new week, and we kick off here with our friend Dried Chicken, who actually dropped 3 Super Chats in a row. Team Rock or Team Triple H? Says he doesn't care. Triple H's booking and The Rock's explanation of WrestleMania Night 2 main event, it's both their faults. Also says, I like Julia and Roxanne. I would invite them to my cookout. Also, I would love to see them piss off the Rhea fans and EO fans so much just for fun. Well, we're going to get that tag team match soon. Just a matter of which week on Raw do we get it. Although we do have a Saturday night's main event. Don't forget, that's coming up also. I think on the 24th next month. So some matches that we don't get at Backlash, we could get rematches. It's Saturday night's main event, but yeah, I could see them saving like a big tag match for that show. Celerot, I was going to tell a joke about the layoffs, but sadly none of them work. You know, you almost had me asking the question, what layoffs? And then I saw the punchline. Very good. Thank you, Celerot. Got Pisco 95. Those what chants to Lyra were shitty. Thank God she got the crowd on her side, but since WrestleMania week, the crowds have been annoying and smarky as hell. Hopefully that changes soon. Even Punk got booed. Yeah, the fans have been all over the place. It's been very heelish or just going against the grain. It's the way fans are now. It's the way these crowds are now. You know, once you kind of let them in and you allow them to take over these shows, they don't want to give it back. They think it's fun. MLK, if Jeff Cobb is going to WWE, I think it would make sense to add him to the new Dangerous Alliance, which is, by the way, that is what I'm calling it until they come up with an actual name. He would be an instant attraction, especially Paul Heyman guiding him. What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm not against the idea. I just don't know if they want another kind of powerhouse type guy in there when they have Breaker. You know, but then I also think if Bronson Reed was healthy enough to come back, you know, in the next month, let's say, he's a guy I would love to see in the group. And he and Jeff Cobb, from as far as like a physical, like ass kicker perspective, they have a lot of similarities. So I don't hate it. I just think there may be better people that you could put in that spot. But, you know, they have their one young up-and-coming guy in Braun Breaker. I don't know if they'd want to add a second one or if they would want to have a veteran. He would certainly fit the bill as far as a veteran performer. He's been doing this a long time. Joseph Stewart says buy or sell, NWO Wolfpack or NWO Hollywood? NWO Wolfpack. Isaiah says, I was there live. How did the crowd sound on TV? Not great. It did not come off great on TV. Duff's Vids, where do pirates get their hooks? Secondhand shop. I guess they do. Jeremy Rose, I don't know who's dumber, Pat for challenging Gunther or Sami not taking the offer. Who first take a title shot? Sami looks like a fool. Sami said he's never been one to run away from a challenge. I mean, he was threatened. His pride got in the way. He can't do it. He can't bring himself to say, okay. But I think the offer was all bullshit anyway, because how would Heyman even have that string to pull? Like, why would the general managers agree to that? I think he was just bullshitting him, is what I think. Jeremy says Sami is definitely winning Royal Rumble in Saudi. Yes, I think you're right. Duff's Vids, why do bees have sticky hair? They use honeycombs.
You suck.
Dev to Dust. Thank you for the 38 months. Have you noticed there's never been a Gen X president? Also, buy or sell on which form of TV was worse, 2018 Raw or 2018 Mets season? I'm going to say 2018 Raw, because it's the season that never ends. At least that Mets season actually came to an end. There is no off season. It was 24/7, 365 shitty Raw. Anthony with a pair of super chats. What's one finisher that you would want to be hit with? That I would want to be hit with? I mean, it's not her finish, but I kind of like the Devil's Kiss. And Solo, what is your most and least favorite super chat? They're all my favorite because it's all, people showing their support, whether it's the small ones or the big ones. I have my personal favorites and least favorites, but they're all favorites of mine. I appreciate all the support that people are willing and wanting to give. Like the Wichita Workhorse, speaking of which, with a $50 Gunther bomb. I felt a void without your podcast this week. Welcome back. Well, thank you. Did you fall into the abyss like Rusev did? Duff's Vids, what do you call a fake noodle? An impasta. Best always with the $10 super chat says, glad to have you back, Solo. What did the Roman say when the lion ate his wife? I'm glad he ate her. Mwahahaha. Yes. When you have to laugh at your own joke, though, Duff's Vids, how does Reese eat soup? Says, with her spoon. Witherspoon. Witherspoon.
You suck.
Witherspoon. The Wrestler says the Mentos super chat. And I have tickets. The Solo Sokoa I have tickets are his favorite. Yeah, Mentos is definitely one of my favorites. I get such joy when I hear that song.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Hey, this is one of my favorites too.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther, the magnificent. All hail Gunther.
This is one of my favorites. It's Gunther, and it's from Fire Panda, who says, quote, fuck you, we got your money. WWE 2025. That's the TKO model. We got your money. Shut up and enjoy the ride. That's their new motto. You'll take it and you'll like it. Thank you, Fire Panda. Joseph Stewart, do you remember when Sable was on an episode of WCW Monday Nitro in 1999? Yeah, she was sitting in the crowd. And then I don't think she was seen again after that. A tarnished Solo, who sings the song at the beginning of the stream? Ultra Boss. It's a great song. Speaking of songs that put a smile on my face, Back to Love by Ultra Boss. Duff's Vids, what sort of sandals do frogs wear? Open-toed. Yo-Yo Sup says, don't really understand why Roxanne is with Julia. I'm fine with it, but as a big Roxanne Perez fan, she needs promos in the future to show why she's great. And I think she'll get them. This almost reminds me, you know what it reminds me of? When they called up Aleister Black and Ricochet. And they kept them together for a while as a tag team. That's kind of what this reminds me of. He also says, I heard someone say that a Finn-Dom feud down the line, Balor would be the heel because Dom's Mania Pop, even if they want Balor as a face. Do you agree? No, I don't agree. I think a lot of it had to do with that crowd at WrestleMania. It all depends on how they tell the story. It's all about the characters, and the fans are going to take to a certain character, or they may not take to a certain character. And if Dom ends up being super over, they'll have to pivot, but I don't think he's not going to get that reaction every week on TV. The thing about Dom, though, he's such a great, shitty, bratty piece of shit heel. Like, he's so good at it. Like, every interview I hear him do, and the way he talks about his mom or his dad or his sister or whatever, and, it's not just like calling Ray a deadbeat. Like, he's living the gimmick. And he's great. Like, it's almost seems like he's a totally different person than the one that we saw 5 years ago when we first saw him tagging with his dad on TV. You see the work he's doing now? And I'm not even like talking ring work. I'm just talking in terms of his character. And it really is like two totally different people, but he just gets it. You know, him and MJF, they get it in a way that not everybody does. Duff's Vids, what does one eye say to the other eye? Something between us smells. Indeed. Yo-Yo says, in bed with Liv Morgan and Roman Reigns, and you have to cuddle with one. Who would it be? I would personally acknowledge my tribal chief. Well, hey, you do you. Also, Logan versus Jay in the Suicide Forest. Can't bring that up to Logan. He doesn't like that. John says, welcome back, Solo the Monster. You have the makings of a varsity athlete. That's what Uncle June tells me. Pisses me off every time, but he's my Uncle June. What am I going to do? John, thank you for the $18. Yo-Yo says, Saints, Ricky Saints against Black, against Penta, against Rusev. Loser goes back to AEW. Man, that would be like a fight to the death. Can you imagine that? That's going to be a bloody affair. Retro says, I hereby dub him Bronze Breaker. That is officially his new name now. Devin says, I missed you yesterday, he says. Next time you have to miss a show, you should have Luis fill in so that we get that much closer to episode 1000. Can you imagine a 2-hour sound off with Luis? You know how many people would unsub? Blue Jay, Bischoff and Hogan teased the comeback with a third man. What the fuck? Yeah, and I couldn't give one shit, let alone two. I found it really just sad more than anything else. Joseph the Game, although it might give me some really great material. Joseph the Gamer 15 says, sorry, Solo, that fans aren't emotionally invested in Lyra. You said it yourself. WWE failed to establish her or give her a character. Sorry, I am not invested. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm not blaming people if they're not invested in Lyra. I'm just saying the what chant is, basically the chant of, brain dead idiots. And I can't condone it no matter what. I just think it's stupid. Tongaloa Superfan, do you get sad sometimes thinking that there might not be another wrestler like Tongaloa in our lifetime? Do I get sad? That's not the word I would use. It makes me feel a certain way, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. So I won't say what that is. There's Luis. See, Luis is it. Look at this. Luis is with us. Nick Grosso with the 1999. Hey, Nick, thank you. Says, I just wanted to pitch a couple of possible members for Heyman and Seth's group, Cross and Scarlett, and Ricky Saints. To be that Randy Orton type of character, and he has history with CM Punk, it would be cool to see them mix it up again. Ricky Saints is someone I could get behind that. I could get behind him as being in that Heyman crew. Cross and Scarlett. I want to see them do more with Cross. I don't know that I would want him in that group. I could be persuaded, but that would not be my first choice for him. Joey, is that true? Says Tam Nakano is retiring. I heard about Mayu Iwatani apparently is gone from Stardom. I don't know where she's going, but it's like, man, what's going on? Mayu is leaving. Naito is gone. He's leaving New Japan. A lot of people who are leaving or retiring. It's like the end of an era. Base Beerus is carrying Cross and the New Dangerous Alliance, NDA. Yeah, I don't think they're going to name themselves that. Zachary Black with a $20 super chat. Here's to be the booker. Yeah, we're halfway to the goal for a second round, so it doesn't look likely. But we did hit our normal goal on the likes, so we're going to get at least one be the booker. Probably not two. Zachary says, though, hope you had a good vacation. Well, it wasn't really a vacation, but thank you. I had a good trip. Do you think this will be a way to write off Pat and get more heat on Gunther? This guy is hoping that that is the case. Is Pat supposed to be leaving soon for any ESPN obligations? I don't think so. I don't think it's to write Pat off. Because there would have to be a reason for that. I haven't heard that he's going to be busy with any other obligations. I mean, he will be later this year when he does College Game Day, but no, I don't think so. I don't think it's meant to write him off. I mean, Corey Graves may hope so. Corey Graves is probably licking his chops. Be kind of funny if Corey Graves even gave Gunther the assist. Interfered in the match when the referee wasn't looking. But no, I don't think so. Oz and Glorious, 47 months of channel membership. There are people that do jail sentences that aren't that long. Thank you, Oz. He also says, my whole routine yesterday was shot without the sound off. Says, your voice is an essential part of our lives and was missed. Much love and fuck the Fed. Well, we'll be back on Sunday with episode 911. Don't worry. I have another wedding in June for another family member, and that's going to wipe that whole weekend out too, so. Nothing I can do. Duff's Vid says, how do you get a blonde to run laps? Put her in a large round room and tell her to stand in a corner. Another blonde joke? Really? Really? I don't know if I should be taking these personally. Matt Fisher, if you have a chance, you should watch The Comic Pals this Thursday. The lead guy is a huge fan of the channel. The Comic Pals, we'll have to write that down. This Thursday, huh? You didn't say what time. I may have to check that out. Aaron with the 10. What's going on, Aaron? Just joining in. Hope you've been well, Solo. What do you think the finish of Cena Orton at Backlash is? I can't see Randy losing clean. Also, Sami and Seth for the world title next year would be unreal. I think there's a very good chance that's exactly what we're going to get. Finish to Cena and Orton is going to be Cena retaining his title. That's about all I know for sure. You know, I've seen people saying that they're going to repeat the No Way Out. I think it was No Way Out, right? In 2008, the finish where Orton, who was the heel, slapped the referee. I think it was Mike Chioda. And Chioda disqualified him. And that's how he retained his title. And I remember that got a big pop from the crowd. The only difference is if that was the Elimination Chamber on that No Way Out show, then Cena Orton didn't close the show. And they're going to close the show in St. Louis. And how the hell are you going to end a show if they repeat that finish but with Cena slapping the referee? See, what I would do is I would repeat that spot and make people think, oh shit, they're going to end the match that way. But the referee is like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. And the match continues. So I would incorporate that spot into this match because it's such a funny spot, but I wouldn't end the match with it. So how the match ends, I don't know. I'm a little worried that Travis Scott might show up. Not going to lie. We may see Travis Scott again. Fire Panda with that 50 bomb from before that I read. Thank you, Fire Panda. I hope you're doing well. Arnold PJ. Fairly recent fan here. Loving your work. Are you going to play 2K25? I've been laughing with the old gameplays. I want to. Yes, I have it. I have it because I play it via Steam through my laptop here. And so I have it downloaded. I've even downloaded some of the update patches that have been put through for it. I just have not. With everything going on with WrestleMania and everything, I just have not had the time to sit down and commit to it, but I am still planning on doing so. I do want to do more gamers for you guys. I just have to find the time. Nick Grasso. With both Thekla and Mayu Iwatani. Oh, that's right. Thekla was the other one also leaving Stardom. With Thekla and Mayu becoming free agents, does WWE try to sign them both? Whenever there's a free agent, I'm sure WWE is going to make a play for them. I don't know if Mayu wants to come to the States. I don't know where her head is at. I don't know if she might go work for Rossi Ogawa and Marigold. I don't know what she wants to do. You know, if she wants to work in WWE, she's going to have to move to the States. Not everybody wants to do that. As far as Thekla, I have no idea. I'm sure both WWE and AEW will make plays for them if they are interested in working in the United States. They'd be crazy not to. Power Spying Games, buy, rent, and sell Nike, Adidas, and Puma. Well, I have owned Nike and Adidas and not Puma. So I'm going to put Puma at the bottom. And I'm going to buy Nike and I'm going to rent Adidas. I don't see LA Gear. Should have put LA Gear on there. Yo-Yo says, I love you, Solo. Start a promotion with 4 females. Who would it be? For me, it would be Rhea, Mercedes, Toni Storm, and either Becky or Alexa for merch. Oh, Bliss fan's going to love you. I mean, if I was starting a promotion with 4 females, you'd be crazy not to have Rhea Ripley at the top of that list because she's the most popular fucking female in the world as far as wrestling right now. I mean, there may be people who go, oh yeah, but what about, you know, and they'll name some, you know, Japanese performers because they're great. But I mean, in terms of popularity, you want to build a promotion? Rhea Ripley's at the top of that list. No, you could boo. There's Creflo. You can boo all you want, Creflo. You know I'm right.
You suck.
So yeah, Rhea for sure would be on there. Toni Storm is just fantastic. So I agree with Rhea. I agree with Toni Storm. I would have Stephanie Vaquer on there. I think she is also fantastic. You know, Alexa, that's interesting. Alexa for merch. Not a bad point. You make a good point there. Mercedes. For the matches that she would have, I'd love to have Mercedes. I don't know if I would have her top 4 if I was just starting a promo. Well, maybe I would. Rhea, Mercedes, Toni Storm, and I think I would just go Stephanie. I think you've almost nailed it there. Oz and Glorious, do you remember 7-Up, RC Cola, and Gatorade Gum? Gatorade Gum? No. RC Cola, yes, and 7-Up, yes. And I didn't drink either one. I thought they were disgusting. I don't drink 7-Up. I don't drink Sprite. Mountain Dew. It's all garbage. Jay Shudo 44. This is an unpopular idea, but what would you think about Logan Paul as the next Heyman guy? You're right. I don't like that idea. I'm not a fan of that. He doesn't need it. I don't think he needs it anyway. I think it's kind of a waste of a Heyman guy right now. Project Libertad, not feeling like mocking Mox or Jay today as I got ghosted on a date. Have some of the money I would have used to pay for her food. Well, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. That's pretty shitty. But you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. You'll find someone else to go hang out with and fuck her. I mean, the one who ghosted you. I mean, if you find another one you want to fuck her, by all means. But I mean, I'm talking about the girl who ghosted you. That's very shitty. So fuck her. You've never had a Baja Blast? No, I have not. Yo-Yo says Travis Scott helped Cena more or Logan World Heavyweight Champion? Logan is not winning the World Heavyweight title. Ron says, I hope they aren't just focusing on the women's division for Evolution. And then back to status quo. The vibe feels like the 2015 Four Horsewomen call-up. There's a reason why I think we're seeing all these women on TV right now. We haven't gotten the official announcement yet, but Evolution is coming. That's why we're seeing a lot of these people on TV right now. Creflo with the 23. Hey, Solo, good to see you back in top form. When am I not in top form? I don't know if this is a more appropriate for the stream or the podcast, but when you look back at NXT, can a good argument be made that Asuka is the best of all time, including the men? In terms of NXT, yes, I think she is in the conversation. Asuka is a tremendous performer. She's a great wrestler, but she just has that charisma about her that not everybody has. And you look at the monster run that she had in NXT. Yeah, you can find some examples of that. Shayna Baszler got a monster run too, but in terms of all-time great, you had to rank them. I'm not going to rank them all now, but you're going to have some kind of like top 5 ranking. Asuka's definitely top 5. I might even have her top 3. And as far as number 1, I wouldn't call you crazy. If you had like an NXT Mount Rushmore, she'd be on there. Oz says, not the drinks. They all had gum in the 80s. No, I got the gum. I mean, you had, oh God, what was it? The, shit, with the comic. I just forgot the name of it. The little comics, you know what I'm talking about. And then you had the baseball cards also that came with gum. I did all that. Blue Jay says, my sis is almost out of the hospital. Prayers, please. Yes, Blue Jay, that's very good news. Sending her a lot of positive vibes. I hope everything works out. Big Red Gum says, Daddy Ugarte. Bazooka Joe. Thank you. Yes. I was a Bazooka Joe guy. I used to have Bazooka Joe gum all the time. My cheeks, I would look like a freaking ferret. I'd have like so many pieces of Bazooka Joe gum, and then I would read the little comics that came with it. Do they still do that? Do they still have Bazooka Joe? Bazooka Joe would be a great wrestling gimmick, by the way. We have Bazooka Joe against Samoa Joe. Special referee, Just Joe. EJ Slemp says, do you have any guilty pleasure TV shows? Mine is Gossip Girl. I don't care. It's great. Penn Badgley makes me want to watch You on Netflix. I mean, would you consider the Golden Girls a guilty pleasure? I guess it would be. A lot of people probably wouldn't admit to it, but they're just fooling themselves. It's a great fucking funny television show. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that because was it Inside the NBA yesterday? I think it was. Or before one of the NBA games on TNT. Charles Barkley was just talking about this yesterday. He was putting over how funny he did like this whole promo on how great the Golden Girls are. They showed he had the mug, like a Golden Girls mug with all their faces on it. And he was just putting over like, it's a funny show. I'm like, no shit. I guess that would be a guilty pleasure. I guess. I certainly didn't watch it when I was a kid. But as I got older and I watched it, I'm like, man, this is a really good show. Like, the writing on the show is great. It's a genuinely funny show. So I guess that would be one. Well, thank you guys. A lot of good ones in there. Appreciate all the support. You're awesome. Great way to kick off the week. We have, of course, well over 560 likes, which means that we are about to go ahead and do your favorite thing I know, which is be the booker. So let's go do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Oh, yeah. There's MLK in the chat. What's going on, man? I believe I read yours earlier. I went through all the early ones earlier. Let me make sure here. Yes, I did. Jeff Cobb. I answered it. I actually spent a few minutes talking about it. You got to go back and check it out, brother. I answered your super chat earlier. You know, Mello says you don't miss. I don't miss. All right, Be the Booker time. Here we go. Tag team Be the Booker. We are going to begin with The New Day. This is The New Day in happier times. But it's funny, you know, The New Day are the tag team champions right now. And so here in this image, they are the SmackDown tag team champions. But you got Big E in the middle. They were very mean to Big E. And then it went absolutely nowhere. So the New Day are going to defend those tag team titles against Booker T and Goldust. Landed on Booker T and Goldust last week, in fact. Them against the New Day would have been a very fun match. Off to a good start. Women's Be the Booker. We have Mariah May. Speaking of all the people leaving Stardom, this is an image of Mariah May from her Stardom days. Look at that. She's got a title. She's got a trophy. Mariah May could be WWE bound before this year is over. They're going after her too. I would too. I don't blame them. Mariah May is going to go one-on. Well, would you look at what we have here? Would you look at this? Who brought her up before? I think I did. Right? I brought her up. Yeah, because someone mentioned Tam Nakano, and then I mentioned Mayu Iwatani. And look at who just popped up and Be the Booker. Mayu Iwatani. Mayu Iwatani against the glamour, Mariah May. Fantastic. And now, our main event. Hopefully our first of multiple main events this week. And in our main event, Doink the Clown. Now it's the best version of Doink. It's evil Doink. It's Matt. I could just look at his face and tell. It's Matt Bourne Doink. But we have Doink in our main event. You know, if Matt Bourne is to be believed, there was a plan, that, at least that he was told, that it was going to be him and Hogan at WrestleMania 9. Yeah. That's what he claimed, anyway. He claimed a lot of things. Doink against Rusev is not a main event. And I love Evil Doink, but that ain't no main event. A lot of it was going to come down to who the opponent was. But yeah, that don't work for me. I'm sorry. That don't work for me, brother. Blue Jay says, Sis can barely smile, but smiles at Hendry's entrance. I mean, who wouldn't smile at Joe Hendry's entrance? Come on, man. Apparently his merch, that WWE shirt they made for him, has sold really well. And, I mean, hell, there are people who would tell you that, man, he's really cooled off. He's not really a draw anymore. Yeah. Well, his numbers would say otherwise. Creflo says, I don't know if you saw, but Gabrielle Union threw a wrestling-themed birthday party for her mom with a ring and a match between luchadors. That sounds amazing. I wish somebody would throw me a wrestling-themed birthday party with some female luchadors in the ring. That would be a great birthday gift. Duff's Vids. 2 blondes fell down a hole. One said, it's dark in here, isn't it? The other replies, I don't know. I can't see. You know, I'm starting to get offended by this. You and your blonde jokes. Starting to think you got something against me. Thank you, Duff. Ken Masters says, I think Mariah May is going to WWE. I can tell you that I absolutely think Mariah May is going to WWE as soon as she's free. That's exactly where I think she's going. I think she's going to kill it. We have got Juan Ocampo, a channel member for 18 months. Funny that you mentioned the chat on Pat's show during the Rock segment. I take part of it. I take part in it, I think he means. I was wondering if you saw me. Rock has go away heat with me. I didn't see you because it was going so fast. I mean, it's maybe you were in there and I just didn't notice, but it was hilarious. Like I was watching the Pat McAfee show live feed on YouTube as the Rock segment was droning on. And then at that point, like towards the end, he was talking about Papa Tui, his fucking skincare line and grooming products. And they're like the people in the chat who don't watch wrestling and don't give a shit about The Rock are begging. They're begging for it to end. Like, can we please talk sports? And it was like 40 minutes in. And it was just the funniest thing. Like, because imagine like Pat McAfee, they talk different things, but like it's a sports show. And so if you're not a wrestling fan or a WWE fan, it's got to be like fucking just pulling teeth to like sit there and listen to Rock talk about what went into the creative process for the WrestleMania main event and why he wasn't there and his movies and Papa Tui. And it was just hilarious just watching the live chat. Blue Jay says Cornette calling Russo shit stain is hilarious. I think it's very appropriate. Especially as someone who had to deal with him on a constant basis. I kind of have sympathy for him. I still think the funniest thing, I don't remember what clip it was that I saw, but Cornette was talking about when they worked in WWE together. It was probably, I don't know, 97, 98, sometime Attitude or early Attitude era. And there was, I guess, some episode of Raw where they were doing a bunch of matches and there were like a lot of DQ finishes maybe in a row or something. And Cornette brought it up to him and his response was, you know, and Cornette says his response was like, it's just wrestling, bro. It's just wrestling. And Cornette wanted to strangle him. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Anyway, thank you guys for the fun stream here on Monday night. The next time I am live with you on this channel will be Wednesday night after Dynamite. Of course, I'll be live with JD on his channel for Tuesday Night Titans, coming off our biggest episode ever, literally and otherwise. But the support was amazing. I haven't checked the final number. I think it was well over 60,000. We've been killing it with the TNTs. Let's keep that going. But we have Dynamite on Wednesday night, the post show, and then I will be here for SmackDown. Back in the saddle on Friday night as normal. So a lot of live content coming to the channel this week. And again, please go check out the Rock video if you missed it. It's up on YouTube. Went up late last week. If you wanted my thoughts and comments on the whole Rock situation, since there was no podcast this weekend, it is up there for you, talking about Damage Control. And I am not talking about EO and Dakota and Kyrie. We're talking about a different kind of Damage Control. MLK, again, yes, I got it. I got it, brother. I read it on the air. You got to go back. That was one of the first ones I read when I got to the Super Chat segment. I did not miss it. Don't worry about it, brother. I didn't forget about you. The Jeff Cobb question. Can go back and check that out. All right, be well, stay safe, and hit that like button on your way out if you have not already done so. And I will see you live on TNT tomorrow night and back here on this channel on Wednesday for the Dynamite Post Show. Until then, take care, guys.